Welcome to this meeting of the Wingecarribee Local Planning Panel on the 28th of June 2024. I declare this meeting open at 2 p.m. I'm the chair of today's meeting. My name is Julie Walsh, and also sitting are expert members Larissa Ozog, Scott Barwick and community member Anthony Neal. Acknowledgement of country. Wingecarribee Shire Council acknowledges the Gundungurra and Tharawal people as the traditional custodians of this land we now call the Wingecarribee Shire. I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders present here today. Could I please ask everyone to turn their mobile phones on silent? There are no apologies. There are no declarations of interest. The procedure for the meeting: all panel members have read the business paper, received a briefing from council staff and familiarised themselves with the properties the subject of the reports today, either by physical site inspections or other means including visual aids such as near maps. The panel is charged with giving advice on items 5.1 to 6.1 on the agenda today, as well as determining the development application at 6.2. There are a number of registered speakers today, and the time limit on each speaker is 3 minutes. That may be extended at my discretion. The panel members may have questions for the speakers once they have finished their presentations. And please note that once you have made your presentations and answered any questions, that you will not be given another opportunity to speak at this meeting. I would ask that all speakers be heard in silence and that courtesy and respect be observed throughout the meeting. Following the conclusion of the public meeting, the panel will move into closed session to deliberate and will announce its advice in public, which will be webcast, and the minutes should be posted on the website by close of business Tuesday. In relation to the first item on the agenda, 5.1, the Bowral South New Living Area, before I hear from the speakers, I just wanted to place on the record the panel is in receipt of correspondence from a number of residents requesting that the panel defer its consideration of the matter for reasons including: 1, the consultation period to date was not 6 weeks as required by the initial funding agreement between Council and the Department of Planning, and 2, the draft master plan has not adequately considered the issue of flooding. The panel does not propose to defer the matter, as point 1 misunderstands the process. The consultation period referred to is to commence after the panel has considered the matter and after Council has considered the matter, including the panel's advice, and the consultation period will be for a period of 8 weeks after that time. In relation to the issue of flooding, further work will be done in relation to that aspect, and in particular to comply with Planning Circular PS 24001, dated 1 March 2024, update on addressing flood risk in planning decisions. And I'm advised that we're very early in the consultation process, and the pre-gateway report on this draft new living area is not anticipated for at least 12 months. So without further ado, I'll hear from the first registered speaker, Fiona Hanrahan.
Oh, thank you. Lots of places to push. Well, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name, as you know, is Fiona Hanrahan, and with my family we operate a cattle property on Headlam Road, Moss Vale. Headlam Road, for those that don't know, are situated, it runs off Moss Vale Road, south of the Wingecarribee Ridge Bridge, and extends for several kilometres, encompassing about 3,000 acres and 17 primary production properties. In speaking today, I'd respectfully ask the panel to consider its important governance role in ensuring that critical risks are understood and being managed compliant with legislation before endorsing this project to proceed. Headlam Road residents have one critical request in relation to Bowral South NLA, and that is that the panel verify the project is acting in compliance with flood risk management legislation and takes action to direct and ensure staff are fulfilling this important due diligence steps on flood modelling and risk management in order to protect future residents from harm and existing residents from unacceptable impacts that result directly from this proposed development. I did provide a pre-read. It involved a fact sheet from Headlam Road residents, including, I'm getting a nod.
Yes,
So
we've
you've
received
seen
that. Thank you.
So I won't cover any of those details. As you can see, Headlam Road has flooded. It has a history of flooding, but there's been numerous developments in our catchment upstream of Headlam Road that have directed overland flow to that location, unmitigated, that is increasing the severity and frequency of floods that now extends to an average of 10 days a year where residents and workers cannot access safely through the public road. The impact in relation to Barrel South is that, if unmitigated, would continue to increase the severity and frequency of those floods, and we feel is entirely unacceptable and intolerable risk to the residents and families along that road. Flood events are predictable, the legislation is clear, and it's grounded in hard and tragic lessons in history and loss of lives. So prevention requires important due diligence steps. I note that the local planning panel in May of this year asked the Barrel South NLA to liaise with DeFi on policy requirements for flood development. Noting the staff response in the report indicated the draft master plan is sympathetic to flood planning, and I note it does not state compliant. We've done an engineering review and it illustrates gaping holes in relation to the current design concepts. For compliance with existing state legislation would mean that Barrel South would have a site-specific flood impact assessment and study conducted that used and is informed on the potential changes of flood behaviour, rates, depths and impacts both on-site and off-site. And these... Wrap it up. Okay. I would note that the detail in the water cycle report still uses flood modelling from 2022, that the housing designs incorporate information that are essentially under the flood events of 1% AEP. The storage detention basins cover about 51 minutes of 1% AEP detention. It leaves 11 hours of unmitigated discharges flowing off-site and impacting downstream residents like Headlam Road. So we feel that at this stage the design does not address the risks to residents, not only Headlam Road in the broader catchment, and we respectfully ask the panel to direct the staff to stop dancing around the issue of flood management and ensure that post-development flood modelling is conducted and flood risks are managed appropriately, timely and in compliance with state legislation. So thank you.
Thank you. Just wait there. I'll see if there are any questions.
I was just to make sure I clearly understood it. So the base concern is the impact of this non-urban area becoming urbanised, increasing flow and changing the flood behaviour downstairs. And when I say changing, increase the impact is the concern.
That's right,
Yeah.
that's right. Headlam Road residents also bound directly south of the Wingecarry River to Barrel South. So there's a number of rural properties that, if discharges are increased from Barrel South, directly flow onto their properties, as well as essentially inundate Headlam Road and Strand residents along that space. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker I have is Barry Anstey. Oh, okay. Peter Cunningham. I think the microphone's still on, so.
Sorry?
The microphone's still on, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's fine. It saves me pushing the button. Greetings. My name's Peter Cunningham. I live on the Jib. I'm not affected by this area at all. I am, however, have been involved heavily in the green between, so there's my prejudice. What I like to do is to approach this from an engineering perspective, because I think that's been missing, and it will take a bit of time if I could be permitted that allowance. So I'll just read from here. It is clear that Council, under pressure from state government, has again put the cart before the horse. The cart at present has a load comprising of a couple of $100,000, which, if not claimed by the end of June 2024, will evaporate. The horse, the council, needs that fodder, so is placing the fodder ahead of community interests. Council and this panel need to consider the most serious and costly matter before plunging on with this politically motivated and destructive pathway. The Executive Manager Strategic Outcomes should step aside from his sales role and listen to engineers. If this matter alone was considered, then I suggest we would not be here now. I explain. Flood realities require the need to elevate, fill and compact the volume of material necessary to modify the state of the site for the intended purposes, flood and structural. Landforming volumes, just as an example. The minimum area needed to be raised by between 1 and 2 metres from current levels is just over 610,000 square metres, normal flood levels. Add 145,000 square metres for the commercial area. The average unfactored, I'll explain that soon, fill volume therefore is between 910,000 and 1 million cubic metres. Factor A increases that quantity by the variable known as bulking. This is the increase in volume of a material from a compacted state, natural ground, to loose or excavated volume. Factor B, compaction and settlement losses due to the nature of soils in such areas. From experiences, that could be as high as 2 times the unfactored volume. That is due to introduced material being compacted into softer substrate. Add those factors and a total of 1.5 to 2 million cubic metres of suitable compaction material will need to be delivered. Questions. Has Council a known source of suitable, note that, suitable material? 2. From where will that material be sourced? 3. What is the haul distance from the source to the site? Which brings me to the next item. Vehicle movements. Referring to the first item, the amount of introduced material needed for this project equates to a minimum of 83,333 truck and dog loads, each 48-tonne GCM in New South Wales. Double that figure when considering trucking.
I've got the letter that
Yep.
that you're reading from,
Yep.
which I'll provide to the other members. So I'm
Yes.
just wondering if you could just summarise your main points rather than just reading from the letter, because we do have some time constraints. Thank you.
Yes, I know. There's some really important things in here to say, though. So, okay, well, if that's the case, I'll go to the final questions. Why should this already financially strained shire be made the scapegoat for federal and co-joined state government machinations? Who will pay the full costs and when of road reconstruction and widening, to also construct waste treatment in water catchment area, and then build hospitals and medical facilities that can't be staffed to cater for more people? 3, a socially responsible government would plan ahead, this comes into context if I was able to read the rest, would plan ahead for the first construct the necessary infrastructure. Repeated failure to do so inflicts endless hardship on the people whose pooled resources actually fund government. Again, why is this shire the scapegoat? 4 of 5. What is more valuable, maintaining community wishes that our rural environment be preserved via township separation, known as the Green Between, or by abiding by permanently destructive political expediencies? 5. How green is this so-called living area? Mining, moving, stripping, placing, compacting over 1 million cubic metres of material for compacted fill, then reconstructing roads involves just a tad of distillate and resulting emissions. That is not green, nor is it environmentally friendly. So if that was taken into context with the rest, it'd make more sense.
Thank you. I'll provide your letter to the other panel members. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Oh, sorry. The next speaker, sorry? Oh, okay, Mr. Anstey. Thank you. The microphone's still on, thanks.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and I apologise for being a little bit late. I want to speak on two matters. One's the Barrel South New Living Area. I've read all the reports and I attended the various workshops that were held on this matter. I must say that, number one, my family doesn't have any interest in properties in that area. But we've been involved in a development very similar at West Byron, and I really don't think that people understand what this proposed development control plan really proposes. Number one, the first thing that needs to be looked at is that the PMF level's not really been shown, and the development crosses the PMF, and there's now legislation that requires that in a planning proposal there be a look at between the 1 in 100 level and the PMF, particularly in terms of evacuation and those things. And there's been recent legislation made last Friday in relation to that. The second thing is that there's a lot of land being zoned R3 and it's got back lanes. And I don't know whether you realise what that really means. I mean, what that means is that complying development, when that's constructed, complying development can be applied for on those lots. And the lot sizes can go down to 200 square metres under the medium density housing diversity complying development code. Now, that's a trend that developers are taking at the moment. The same thing's happening at Byron Bay, that we did super lots to create the ability to not have to go back to council. But what you've got to realise in this plan, that there's a massive amount of it that's going to be terrace houses. They will bring $3 million in this current market. So there's nothing there affordable. Now, when I was working at the workshops of this, there's a small retail component up on the corner. I think that's incorrectly located. It's too close to the intersection. And what we really need in the middle of it is something that's quite large in terms of a mixed use, where something could be done like Habitat at Byron Bay, where you can get some shop top housing and some nice open spaces and some areas for people to have commercial offices and retail. I mean, we've got a problem. Barrel's ringed and it's not going to be able to expand. So we need space that people can actually work and live in. And
So I think that was the bell, if you could perhaps finish up soon.
So they're the things that I feel about that particular matter. Do I get another on the...
Sorry, if I could just ask you to wrap it up, thank you.
Yeah, I'm finished in relation to the seniors living, but I want to...
We've got another speaker, so I'll need you to have you come back for the other one. Did you have any questions? Did you have any questions, Mr. Bartlett?
No.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just I have one more speaker, Bob Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Council. I'm speaking to you today as an Aboriginal elder. I'm an elder of a Paramount clan, and I want to speak to you about the significant importance of this site. A significant number of sites have been found in the Southern Highlands area, and there are likely to be many more that have yet to be identified. All Aboriginal sites have legal protection under both state and federal law, and it is an offence to damage or destroy them without agreement from the New South Wales State Government. Fines and penalties for harming sites are significant, and it is illegal to collect artefacts from the site. I have it on... I have a position of a midden that's been buried on this particular site by a previous owner, and I have it on record that Aboriginal artefacts have been removed from this site and are in a private collection. Now, the ground or the area around is a bora. Now, bora grounds are Aboriginal ceremonial places. These are where initiation ceremonies are performed, and they're often meeting places as well. A bora ground most commonly consists of 2 circles marked on raised earth banks and connected by pathways. One of the rings would be for everyone, and the others would be for uninitiated men, women and children. The second ring would then be for initiated men and the young men about to be initiated. Occasionally one ring can be found, but that would have been used for corroborees and for rare fights. Bora grounds are a reminder of spiritual belief in the ceremonial life of the Aboriginal people. They are most at risk from natural processes. The circles flatten over time and become overgrown with vegetation, similar to the surrounding area. However, because the soil has been compacted, there will be slight changes in the vegetation, and these differences can often be detected from an aerial view. An open campsite, these are sites mostly surface and associated subsurface scatters of stone artefacts, sometimes with fireplaces. They exist throughout the landscape and are most common site types in rural areas. While found in all environmental locations, larger and denser sites tend to be found on riverbanks and lower slopes facing watercourses, as well as ridgelines and other areas that offer movement routes. The study of open sites can assist in understanding patterns of Aboriginal land use. Now, there has been a scar tree identified on the site. Scar trees are evidence of bark and wood being removed for shields, shelters, coolamons and canoes. These are rare in the Sydney area. The trees can be divided into 3 groups. Bark removal.
Sorry to interrupt you. That was the 3-minute bell, so just if you could please finish up
Yes.
shortly. Thank
Bark
you.
removal for coolamons, wood removal for boomerangs and digging sticks, evidence of climbing footholds, etc. Hunting possums and sugar bag, which is honey. And tree. This doesn't kill the tree, but it's left the tree scarred. There's also burials. Burials are found where soft soils are located. Burials can be throughout the Sydney area and down into the Southern Highlands. Numbers have been found over the past years in middens and under shelters. Traditional burial practices for the Sydney clans are unclear. However, it is known that traditional practices gave way when disease from European invasion ravaged the groups throughout the areas. Burials are an important part of Aboriginal culture and contemporary practice. It is to recover what remains have been excavated and to rebury them in a secure place at the location of origin. This practice is the consensus of the Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council. The criteria for assessing...
Sorry, I'm going to have to remind you that you're well
Sorry?
over the limit, so if you could please finish up soon. Thank
Yes.
you.
The criteria, I've only got a couple of pages to go. The criteria for assessment of heritage significance of Aboriginal sites. The Burra Charter of Australia defines cultural significance as aesthetic, historical, scientific and social value for past, present and future generations. The assessment of the cultural significance of a place is based on this definition, but other varies in precise criteria. Using according analytical discipline and the nature of the site, objects or place in general, Aboriginal archaeological sites are assessed using 5 potential categories of significance. Significance to contemporary Aboriginal people, scientific or archaeological and aesthetic value, representativeness and value of an educational or recreational resource. Okay, I won't go on to that. Now, the mobs, which are the people that use these areas from the Blue Mountains, are the Darug, Gundagara, the Winjajari, the Wananoru, the Daringjung and the Thawal. The people from the Sydney area are the Gadigal people, part of the Aurora Nation, a group of 29 clans, and the people from the Illawarra. And these include, but not limited to, the Yuin, the Wiradjuri, the Kalamarori, the Jalalung, the Dungaeti and the Gumbaygani nations. Now, it is my intention today to declare this site a site of Aboriginal specific heritage. And I'm doing so as in my role as an elder and on behalf of all Aboriginal people. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I'll just check if there are any questions.
Can I just ask, are you part of the Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council? Are you
I'm a member of the Illawarra Land Council.
The Illawarra. Okay, thank you.
So can I just ask what, you've read the business paper?
I beg your pardon?
Have you read the business paper?
Which, I'm
this
not sure
item?
what you're referring
Oh,
to.
so the recommendation is that we advise that the draft master plan and strategy be placed on public exhibition. What are you asking us to do?
I'm asking you to defer anything until a full Aboriginal study has been conducted of the site. And today limited has been. I have evidence of deliberate burying of middens on the site, and I have evidence of artefacts being removed. And going forward on that, I am declaring it a site of Aboriginal significance. Therefore, before anything can be done, a grid search will need to be carried out over the entire 600 acres.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all of the speakers. Is that right, Lisa, for that item? Yeah, for that item.
Is it possible just to make one small point? I apologise for not...
Sorry, have you registered to speak? No, I'm sorry, if you haven't registered to speak, I'm not going to take any more speakers, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask the council officer, Dennis Kilic, if he wishes to make a response to any of those matters raised, and in particular the request for deferral on the basis of the community consultation period and the flooding issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a few clarifications regarding process, both clarifications but also addressing misunderstandings of process. I do appreciate that the New South Wales planning system is complex and there's a lot going on. And some of the representations, some of the submissions or pre-exhibition submissions that were received refer to forms between the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure and Council. And these forms, these administrative forms, were about the grant funding that was received by Council from the Department in the amount of $250,000, and that's public knowledge. And Council put another $100,000 of its money or residents' money, attributing it to this project as part of the master planning, the servicing strategy, and the due diligence reports. The grant was approved in January 2023. The tender process took several months, and the successful consultant didn't start work until the middle of 2023. So the original due date was January 2024. Our consultants could not achieve that date, so there was nothing to put on public exhibition. And that's why program change forms were submitted on 2 occasions, extending the time frame to the 30th of June 2024, and another one to extend it to December 2024. In effect, a 1-year project has become a 2-year project, because appreciating the scale of the precinct and the due diligence work, as well as the consultation that needs to take place. The representations talk about a 6-week community consultation process. That is the subject of this report and the report going to Council in July. I cannot unilaterally, as a professional officer, start a formal consultation process until it goes through the panel and Council. And we're proposing best practice, so beyond the 6 weeks, actually 8 weeks, and all the events that occurred, the consultation events that have occurred to date, were upfront engagement events, not formal community consultation events. So that takes into account the community design workshops, as well as the public information sessions, where collectively over 200 people were involved in those public information sessions. So I just wanted to make those clarifications. I do appreciate that the New South Wales planning system and grant funding mechanisms can be complex, but those are the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you want to address the issue of flooding?
And regarding flooding, one thing I'd like to, again, clarify is that a master plan is only the start of the process. We still have a year's worth of work to do, including a flood risk impact assessment. Now, we've been speaking to the relevant state agencies, including Water New South Wales, Department of Planning, Housing Infrastructure, as well as the new Climate Change Environment Department. And there's been quite a bit of material that's been released in the last 6 to 9 months that also needs to be considered. Again, we're at least a year away from requesting a rezoning from the Department of Planning, and the gateway determination process takes at least another year on top of that. Again, we have probably years worth of work to do, and the master planning process, the servicing strategy, and the due diligence going on public exhibition, community consultation is the start of that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions, Mr. Coolidge?
I was going to ask about the FURA, but you answered that.
So the next item is the Southern Highlands Innovation Park. Barry Anstey has also registered to address us in relation to that item. I think the microphone's off now, so you just have to turn it back on.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the panel. This master plan that you've got on your business paper for today shows an area which is for an agro-business hub, basically on the left, if you're heading towards Berrima, on the left-hand side of Berrima Road. There was $100,000 spent by this council on investigation of the suitability of the Highlands for an agricultural hub, and it was found that there was no businesses of a size in the Highlands that would justify such an enterprise. And that seems to have not been integrated into this plan, because if that was integrated into this plan, then you wouldn't have the proposed large area for an agri-business hub. The other question that I raise is that the road structure shows a road running down, which I think is Douglas Road, and then turning around, and there's this concept of the bridge to go over the railway line to eliminate the level crossing down outside the Boral Cement Works. Now, that project has been abandoned and delayed because of insufficient money and increased costs. But what doesn't seem to have been looked at is that to do that, to get round there, you've still got to cross the railway line, whereas if the Douglas Road situation was just extended straight on, then you're on down to the roundabout that's proposed, then you don't need a bridge because you're on the, again, heading towards Berrima on the right-hand side of the railway line. So it seems just a complete problem in relation to where that road structure goes. The other thing is that there's not a road shown that comes down beside the existing cemetery, and as much as there's talk in the proposal about landscaping of roads and stuff, what we still need is a clean industrial area that in relation to things, and perhaps some mixed zoning. I mean, the strategy of this council for essential workers is that they live in Tullambar and drive up Macquarie Pass. That's just not acceptable. I mean, we should be able to accommodate our people within the area if we look at this. Now, the other thing is that Boral have got a railway corridor that goes from Mossvale railway station out to Medway Mine. It's not utilised at the moment past the cement works. But Landcom is currently looking at 4,500 houses on Medway Road. Now, that's probably needed in terms of where we are, and probably when we get updated housing statistics for the Southern Tablelands, we'll see why that's needed. But what's proposed in this plan is not satisfactory in terms of where the aim should be, and I think you should defer it for more information.
Thank you. I'll just check if there are any questions. Thank you for coming along today. So those are the only items on the agenda which have registered speakers. So we will go into closed session now and to deliberate, and we'll come back and announce our decisions. I think we could be a couple of hours possibly, and that'll be live streamed. And as I indicated before, our advice and determinations will be on the website by close of business Tuesday. Thank you. I declare the public meeting closed at 2:35.